Be honest. Did you just check your phone? Yeah, same. Good news is, you're not alone. We all do it. The reach, the scroll, that weird little heart flutter when it's not there. You didn't decide to check, it just happened. Like breathing, but more tragic. Distraction gone full autopilot. Not because we're bored, not because it's urgent, but because, well, what else are we supposed to do? Sit with our thoughts?
Everything is locked into a ceaseless and desperate race for attention online. Attention is the most important currency.
If the Wi-Fi's on, so are we.
The online world provides us with an opportunity for constant stimulation. There is no need now for people to be sitting, doing nothing, thinking, or just reflecting.
Sitting and thinking? Sounds gross. We say we're more connected than ever, but once upon a time, connection didn't involve 3 Wi-Fi bars and a blue check.
What these platforms sometimes do is give us the illusion of intimacy.
Because due to the internet, people are contacting each other in person less.
Now a screen lighting up feels more intimate than eye contact.
We're living through one of the loneliest ages probably in human existence.
Alone, we scroll to feel less alone. And somehow it kinda works. Until it doesn't. Because what if the thing we reach for to feel connected is the same thing pulling us farther apart? And what exactly are we connecting to? Each other or the feed?
Humans can form relationships with pretty well anything, with stones, with inanimate objects, with their car or whatever. So, we are capable of imbuing things, even technologies, with human qualities. But it can only take you so far, I think.
Connection, real connection, is supposed to mean presence. 2 brains, same moment, actual awareness. A bond born from just existing near each other. Revolutionary, we know. This isn't just a nice to have, it's hardwired into our biology. But most of us, we're not exactly nailing it. We check our phones an average of 144 times a day. We touch them more than 2,600 times daily, not because something happened, but because something might have.
A lot of the time, if I've put my phone away, I'll be thinking oh, what if somebody wanted to hang out and I've missed out on that because I've not been on my phone.
Remember when FOMO was a meme? Yeah, now it's just called Monday.
I think what we've done with the rise of mobile, connected digital technologies is we've kind of outsourced a lot of our attentional faculties to these devices, and we trust them to use that in a way that is good for us and good for our lives, for our communities, our societies.
In one survey report in August 2023, 56.9% of American adults self-reported phone dependency, with 47 feeling anxiety when battery dips low. Our deepest fear? Not death, not failure, it's being left out of the group chat. You go offline for 2 hours, come back, and everyone's suddenly best friends without you. There's a new inside joke, a brunch plan, a meme format, and you're reacting to messages from 6 hours ago like a ghost from the past.
I feel like a lot of the time there'll be all kinds of connections everywhere online, but it means people aren't connected in real life. There's times where I've been out and everybody else has been on their phone. So it's felt like everybody's there and I'm surrounded by people, but I'm not actually having any social interaction, and therefore it's felt quite lonely.
In 2019, before the pandemic, the U.S. Surgeon General called loneliness a public health crisis.
Loneliness and social isolation are widespread problems in the U.S. The Surgeon General says it has reached epidemic proportions.
You struggle with loneliness when you're socially disconnected. It increases your risk of depression and anxiety and suicide, but it also increases your risk of physical illness as well.
So you're saying loneliness is comparable to smoking in terms of the detriment to your health?
Yeah, in terms of the risk that it poses for premature death, yes.
Not just a feeling, a condition, a threat, on par with smoking 15 cigarettes a day, worse than obesity, tied to higher risks of heart disease, dementia, stroke, depression, and early death. And then the world shut down. By 2023, 58% of Americans said they felt lonely often or always. Among teens, that number climbs above 70%.
For years, down in Stanford, there was a course called the Persuasive Technology Lab, where again, people would get trained in how to make, an itch coming from the apps and from the social media platforms. And it's not something which we choose to have happen. This is a deliberate design decision on the basis of the technology developers.
Social platforms aren't passive tools. They're emotional architectures, interactive systems built to poke your brain, hijack your attention, and keep you scrolling like it's a full-time job. They don't wait for you to use them, they make sure you do.
The way that the social media platforms work is that you cannot be guaranteed to get a good hit, a positive response every time you post something. And that is part of the process, because when it comes to these sort of compulsive behaviors, it's that little bit of uncertainty that it creates this sort of anticipation.
Every scroll, like, or ping, that's your brain's dopamine circuit lighting up like a slot machine. Not because it's fun, but because it's unpredictable. You're not addicted to the payoff, you're addicted to the maybe. Maybe it's a like. Maybe it's a comment. Maybe it's your ex liking your story at 2 a.m. And your brain, it eats maybe for breakfast.
When you refresh your email, almost always you get nothing, right? But every so often, you'll get something which might be life-changing. Every so often, you might have a job, you might have a job request in there, or job offer, or maybe you've won something, truly, or maybe your old romantic interest is getting back in touch.
Studies confirm it. Dopamine spikes aren't strongest when the reward arrives, but when it's anticipated. In a foundational neuroscience study conducted by Wolfram Schultz and colleagues, monkeys were trained to press a lever for a reward. Cool, they're into it. But make that reward unpredictable, like maybe it shows up, maybe it doesn't. Suddenly, those monkeys are mashing that lever like it's the skip intro button on Netflix. Translation: uncertainty doesn't kill motivation, it supercharges it. Social apps know the game. That's why likes, alerts, and DMs show up at random, just enough to keep you chasing the next hit. Because if you knew when it was coming, you'd stop checking, and that's bad for business. Once upon a time, user flows had natural endpoints. The end of a chapter, the end of a video, the bottom of a thread. Not anymore. Now it's infinite scroll, autoplay, next up, next up, next up. It's not a feed, it's a treadmill with no off switch. And the algorithm? It's your personal hype man, whispering just one more.
When I've got my phone, I just feel like I'll be texting people and filling up that time a lot more, scrolling through things like TikTok, which a lot of the time it would take up most of my day before, other than the things I have to get done.
Research shows that when platforms remove stopping cues, session time jumps by 20 to 50%. Your brain's attentional system evolved to focus on novelty and movement. Then there's the pressure cooker. They're typing. Seen at 3:24 p.m. Cute little features? Nope. These are anxiety grenades, gift-wrapped in chat bubbles, designed to keep you sweating, waiting, overthinking. Recent human factors research found that just seeing an unread notification or a typing indicator creates a lingering mental load. In one field study of 247 participants, disabling notifications dramatically improved performance and reduced strain, especially for those with high FOMO or a strong sense of telepressure.
I don't think I have a good relationship with social media that way, as if I ever post something, I'll be thinking about it for the whole day. I'll be thinking, oh, who's gonna see this? Like, what are they gonna think of me? And I will overthink it quite a lot.
UCLA researchers scanned teens in an fMRI as they viewed Instagram-style photos, including their own, with variable likes. The results were striking. More likes didn't just feel good, they lit up the nucleus accumbens, the brain's reward center in the same circuitry activated by chocolate or winning money. But more importantly, these metrics became proxies for self-worth. My post didn't perform becomes I'm not interesting. I lost followers becomes I did something wrong. This isn't just disappointment, it's identity pain.
The consequence is that you end up anxious, depressed, and without a strong sense of who you are, who you really are, and what you want to achieve in life.
The social reinforcement loop is real and is reflected in brain scans. When you're lonely, bored, or insecure, you're a perfect target, which in today's world is nearly everyone. And so the spiral deepens. The more time we spend seeking connection through screens, the less fulfilled we feel. The more empty we feel, the more we reach for our screens.
The technology can make it harder for us to do what we want to do in the moment, but also to be who we want to be over time. And then I think at that deepest level, the capacities that are necessary to decide what we care about, to decide what we want it to do with our lives.
This attention optimization, driving polarization, driving extremism, driving alienation, driving people further from each other. I can't think of anything which is more globally injurious to human beings right now than that.
We tell ourselves we're lonely because we're alone. But often we're lonely because we've lost the stuff that makes closeness possible.
I feel like the realest moments I've had with my friends have been in person, especially like in nature, like going on dog walks with my friends where it's literally just me, the dogs, and then just talking about all our feelings.
The screen is addictive, yes, but not just because of what it gives us, but because of what it protects us from.
You might think that because someone liked something you posted that there's a kind of connectedness there, but it's, it's kind of the same difference between like eating a bag of potato chips, I think, and eating like a really healthy, fulfilling meal. You know, if you eat the bag of potato chips, you'll be kind of full in one way, but still hungry in another way.
Technology revolutionized our ability to communicate, but made it way harder to actually connect. Apps let us showcase curated joy and tastefully filtered despair. Feeling sad, hyped, crushed by the existential weight of turning 30 and not living your best life? Don't worry, there's an emoji for that, and a gif of a raccoon having a breakdown. And the wild part? We didn't just accept it, we adapted. In fact, we might even prefer it. A study in Science Direct found that while online interactions can mimic intimacy, they often lack the nonverbal nuance that builds trust, the eye contact, the tone, the moment when someone doesn't flinch when you fall apart. We've outsourced our need for connection to platforms that reward performance.
So if you're coming along with me on this journey, I just want you to acknowledge that in the comments, just so I can know that, I got some riders with me, you know what I'm saying?
But what we really need can't be performed. It starts with a screen. A young woman, ring light glow, perfect framing, Slack pings, a Zoom link arrives. She hits record. What you're about to see? One of the rawest, most disorienting moments of her life, streamed live, trimmed for TikTok, and captioned for people she'll never meet. Uploaded, tagged, and edited for virality. She's not alone, at least not digitally. These layoff confessionals have become their own genre. Hashtag laid off. Hashtag watch me get fired. Because in the silence of remote work, no office buzz, no coworkers, no awkward goodbye sheet cake, sometimes the only one left to witness your exit is the internet. As workplace expert Dan Schawbel puts it, when you replace emotional connections with digital ones, you lose the sensation of being present and the feeling of being alive.
I've definitely sent quite vulnerable text messages when texting friends because, like I was saying earlier, in a way it doesn't feel real when you're on social media, so it feels like you can open up about anything.
Sharing pain publicly isn't new. What's changed is the infrastructure of validation. The algorithm rewards vulnerability if it's well lit and hashtagged. The dopamine hit from comments replaces emotional support. You get a sense of being seen without risking the intimacy of a real conversation.
I'd just be satisfied with people enjoying my content, and I don't really mind if they want to get to know like the real me, for example, or not.
There's only so much you can get from the bandwidth of a screen. You know, there's so much more that exists in the real world.
A study examining in-person, video chat, audio chat, and instant messaging with close peer pairs showed significantly higher feelings of connectedness and nonverbal affiliation cues during in-person conversations compared to digital methods.
People hug each other, they kiss each other, physical contact is important, proximity is important.
In contrast, digital interactions lack physical presence and may not trigger similar hormonal responses.
I think online life has totally changed what we even think vulnerability really is. You know, on the one hand, I think there's really strong drivers about self-branding, you know, and like image management. Like we've all have to like come to think of ourselves as individual brands.
When I'm texting someone and there's kind of like the barrier of the screen kind of feels like it's protecting me in a way. So I definitely feel like I can be more myself online. And then sometimes you've got to think, is the quieter version of you actually more the real you than the louder version online? So it's difficult to say. But I feel like who I really am is a mixture of both my personality online and in real life.
This is the era of curated collapse. We post the fall, then we scroll through applause.
Dear younger Kat. Hey YouTube, it's me, Kat.
Meet Kat Lasso, digital creator, cultural storyteller, amplifier of Gen Z Latinx voices.
Actually, I wanted to talk about us Latinx.
She lit up the internet with The Cat Call, a sharp, unfiltered series calling out racism, colorism, and stereotypes baked into pop culture. For a moment, it felt like something was shifting. A young woman of color breaking through, being seen, heard, celebrated. But being visible isn't the same as being known. The more raw her videos got, the more cruel the replies. In her words, I have 24,000 followers, but I still feel lonely on social media. Because the platforms weren't connecting her, they were broadcasting her. So she did the unthinkable. She logged off. Now her voice is quieter, but more honest. Her presence smaller, but more whole. Kat's story isn't just hers. It's a generational story, trying to feel held in a world that only knows how to watch. Trapped between attention and authenticity, between digital crowds and emotional solitude. The problem isn't technology, it's the rituals we've lost. But here's the good news.
I think it's massively possible to build digital spaces that bring us closer together and promote intimacy.
And it starts small. According to neuroscientist Matthew Lieberman, the brain's default mode isn't solitude, it's social connection.
One of the risks of social media is that the kind of connections that we can experience in our face-to-face lives, in our everyday lives with our families and so on, can atrophy.
The shift isn't loud. It begins in whispers, small rebellions against the scroll.
So whether that's, taking a day away from digital technology, or, going on a walk with a friend in the woods once a week, it will be different things for everybody.
It's always possible for us to re-engineer better systems. We've never lost this battle. The world is, and technology is fungible and it's shapeable all the time. Like, we just need to have more pressure and more interest and more energy going into shaping digital spaces that make society the one that we want to live in for the digital age.
In order for connection to happen, we have
Dr. Brené Brown's research shows that vulnerability creates a mirror effect. When you share something honest, you open the door for others to meet you there. It's not just emotional, it's psychological. Nervous systems sync, trust builds, emotional regulation strengthens. And when that happens, when someone chooses honesty over polish, something shifts.
When we're talking in person, you can interpret a lot through like body language and stuff like that, whereas when you're texting, you can't use that.
The silence stops being awkward. It becomes space. Space to be messy, to not know what to say, to be human. As trauma researcher Bessel van der Kolk writes, the body keeps the score, and part of healing is learning to stay, to not run from discomfort, but through it. Because the relationships that really matter, the ones that change us, will stretch us first, not in comfort, but in courage.
If we lose our ability for moral imagination, like to imagine what it's like to be someone else, we've lost our empathy in a certain way.
I think it's useful to turn to the scientific literature on combating other kinds of habits and addictions. And if we look at that literature, what we see is a range of things that can be brought into play. One of them is what we call behavioral substitution, finding something else that does the kind of core job that this behavior is doing, but in a more healthy way, in a way that doesn't lead to these kinds of compulsive behaviors and take you away from things that ultimately are making you satisfying. And those things will often be, in this case, things around relationships, around building and maintaining and fostering and nurturing productive, healthy relationships.
The longest-running study on happiness, the 85-year Harvard study on adult development, did not find success in money or fame. It found it in warmth, in the presence of even one relationship that makes you feel safe enough to exhale.
Improvement in the person's behavior results from a change in their own life circumstances.
Connection doesn't ask us to go viral. It asks us to go local, to build tiny, human-sized circles, the kind that know your actual name, not just your handle.
I'd rather have 10 close friends that don't really post than have 1 million followers and feel lonely, because I wouldn't want to feel lonely, because it's not a good feeling, and all these 1 million followers aren't probably as close to me as the 10 friends that are.
The algorithm didn't invent our loneliness. We did. When we traded closeness for control. When we decided it was safer to be seen than to be known. And the longer we hide behind carefully cropped versions of ourselves, the harder it gets to answer when someone genuinely shows up. So here's the question. So if real connection means discomfort, if presence means dropping the filter, the script, the mask, would you still say yes?
Yeah.